Welcome to another new episode of r/Am I the Bad Guy? Today's first story is posted by Microwave Men. Am I the bad guy for purposefully tripping over a suitcase and guilt tripping my husband? I'm a female, age of 32, currently 8 months pregnant with our first, and I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure the house is ready. This started with little spring cleaning jobs, but has developed into a full-blown deep clean of everything. One of the things I have decluttered recently was mine and my husband's, age of 33, closet. I donated everything we don't wear and have folded and put away everything that we won't need during winter. Some of this clothing has gone into a suitcase, which is currently sitting on our bedroom floor because it is too heavy for me to lift and put away. I have asked my husband to please help me more than once, but he is always either too tired after finishing work or he says that it slips his mind. All in all, the suitcase is currently looking like a permanent installation in our bedroom. He has at least shifted it out of the main walkway in the interim. Last night, I woke up to go to the bathroom and ended up tripping over the suitcase as I fumbled in the dark. I do obviously know where it is after it has been there for so long, but I was half asleep and trying to avoid our sleeping pup. While the fall wasn't bad, I did wake my husband in the process. My husband was initially quite worried, especially since our midwife told us any fall needed a trip to the hospital, but once he realized it was because of the suitcase, he became quite upset. He said that there is no way I could have tripped over the suitcase unintentionally as he has moved it out of the walkway, and I had done it to prove a point. He said that he could not believe I would behave so passive aggressively and put our baby's life at risk rather than just asking him again, and that forgetting to move the case is not a crime. The more I tried to explain that I was trying to avoid waking him and tripping over the dog, the more he said that these were just convenient excuses to make him look lazy and unhelpful around the house. He said I was punishing him for not getting to the suitcase sooner, and that if anything, I should have had a plan to deal with it from the beginning as it was me who had wanted to sort out the closet in the first place. My husband was fired up again after I mentioned to the midwife this morning that I had tripped over a suitcase, and he said I could have just told her that I had fallen over the dog or my shoelaces. He said that he had made his feelings clear during the night when we had our discussion, and I was rubbing salt in the wounds now. I spoke to my mom, age of 61, about it after we got back from the midwife because I wanted to vent, and she surprisingly took his side and said I was letting my emotions get the best of me. My mom said I should have been more graceful bringing it up in front of the midwife, although I will say that I never said anything about asking him to move it, and she said that the situation has probably made my husband feel quite bad about himself, which is why it has turned into such a big drama. People have given some suggestion to OP on this post. Let's see. First suggestion from Rosa Jane Ramblings. Not the bad guy. It sounds like he was being lazy about it, and now he's feeling guilty, so he's lashing out at you to compensate. How long has the suitcase been there? OP replied, thank you for your comment. The suitcase has probably been on the floor 3 to 4 weeks. Next suggestion from Gloryb. I know a man with one leg. He says he sometimes wakes up at night to go to the bathroom, forgets he only has one leg, and ends up tumbling to the floor. So, if he can forget that, how is one to remember a suitcase? Next suggestion from Anna Wright. First of all, I'm so sorry you are married to an insensitive who cannot understand the consequences of his actions or a lack of thereof in your case. I cannot believe that you are even thinking about the ways of not making him look bad when he so much should. Please, stop considering the fragile feelings of a grown husband. It is essentially his fault that you tripped over the suitcase, since it was his job to have it removed. If you tripped over the dog or shoelaces, who is even wearing shoes with laces at night, you would be just saying that. If he wants you to not say that, he might just move the suitcase. As easy as that. Your husband is bad guy, not you. Next suggestion from Dear Fit. I just came from another post where someone said why is every Reddit post recently I've married a complete or having or had a baby with a huge and they are treating me badly for expecting them to be a caring or sensitive or non-abusive human. Not the bad guy. Next suggestion from Fairboy Barry. Not the bad guy. Your husband is kinda an for assuming that there is no way you could forget it was there. Pregnancy brain is very real. I got into the shower more than once with either my socks and or underwear still on because I would literally forget I still had to take those items off, and it was hard to see my feet or anything below my belly at that point. Let's read today's second news story, posted by Headad. Am I the bad guy for refusing to take less hours at work even though my wife's alone with the sick kids all day? I'm a male, age of 37, have been with my wife since our senior year in high school. We have 6 kids between the ages 7 to 15. I work Monday Friday, 14 hours 3 days a week, 12-hour 2 days. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. Before I get the hate comments as I've seen in the past, I'm extremely grateful. My days off, I take the kids out, and my wife has the day to herself, or she goes out, and I handle chores. I always remind my wife, and take her out on date nights a few times a month on my days off. My sister comes by and helps out some days throughout the week. We had a financial crisis earlier this year, which resulted in me having these extra hours. It's completely necessary. 4 of our kids do extracurricular. We have to pay for and other necessities. My wife has recently been asking me to cut back hours, which has been causing arguments, because it's simply impossible at the moment. We have young twins, and earlier this week they got the flu, which spread all throughout our home, which had the kids home from school for majority of the week. I could not call off, but it left my wife extremely stressed out. One of our children has autism, and when they are sick it is a very big crisis in the house with tantrums. I felt horribly, but I couldn't call off. Basically today my wife shouted at me for over an hour for refusing to take less hours, because she is so stressed. She said I get to escape at work, and she has a household to run. I tried to explain that I'd love more than anything to be home more, but I couldn't. But she continued yelling, saying I was the problem. Am I the bad guy? People have given some suggestion to OP on this post. Let's see. First suggestion from Right Count. Not the bad guy, I guess. If you can't call off, you can't call off. But I question whether the extracurricular activities are important enough to be worth burning out your wife. OP replied, I have had that same discussion, but these children have been in these extracurricular for many years, and my wife insists they continue, because they enjoy them so much. Next suggestion from Ktree. Not the bad guy, but if your wife is in the hospital with a breakdown, that will require you to take off work, and be a financial burden as well. Something needs to give. You may have to look at dropping the extracurricular activities you pay for, and looking at free activities, going over your budget to see if there is any way for you to cut hours. Otherwise maybe paying a sitter a few hours a week, to give your wife a break, or a mother's helper, so it's less expensive. Also, are you in the States? Have you looked into in-home therapies and respite for your autistic child through your state? Info. You mention a financial crisis, then mention extracurricular activities for 4 kids and other necessities. What was the crisis? What exactly increased in cost that you had to work these hours? Next suggestion from Rohini Rambles. Extracurriculars are not necessities. A burnt out caregiver, ESP to a kid with special needs, is a dangerous thing. She is asking you for help. You need to hear her OP. Having 6 kids is so much work, and she's doing it alone essentially. She shouted at you for an hour. That lady doesn't have an hour to spare. That's how serious it is. Next suggestion from Low Balance. I don't know, man. 66 hours a week doesn't sound like an escape to me. That sounds like hell. On your next day off, can you two sit down and go through your budget? Maybe you can work less hours if sacrifices are made in other areas and you both are willing to do that. But also going through the budget can also reinforce why you are working those additional hours, and it also can help you go over everything with a fine-tooth comb to be able to see, do you really need HBO Maximum? Obviously, just an example, and where else corners can be cut. Not the bad guy. Next suggestion from Bockerton. I can't decide between not the bad guy and everyone here. Honestly, it sounds like you're both living in hell. This is one of the risks with having so many kids. One, financial issue, and you're in this position. Obviously you have the kids, so you can't change that now, but you both willingly had this many kids knowing that kids are expensive and get sick often. This is just an awful situation for everyone, and unfortunately it won't last. Something's gotta give here. someone will blow up or perhaps worse. Something needs to change, or there will be serious consequences. Have you thought about your own health OP between the work hours and emotional stress? Let's read today's third news story, posted by Reasonable Relief. Am I the bad guy for not paying a $300 bill for people I didn't even want there? I'm really torn on this, so I would definitely appreciate some advice. I'll start off with saying that I have an aunt on my dad's side of the family. She's 50 and has 5 kids ranging from 20 all the way to 12. She's always been known to be a freeloader and taken advantage of situations and people. One time me and my dad were planning on going to the drive-in, and my dad stupidly told her. She asked if her kids could be included too. I felt pissed because this happened every time me and my dad had something fun planned, just me and him. I'm hoping that you get the idea with what I've given you so far. But anyway, last week I wanted to celebrate my little sister from getting her driver's permit, and I invited all of our family to Olive Garden. By that I mean all of us who live in the same home. I told everyone to clear their schedules for Friday afternoon because I didn't want anyone to feel left out. Well, that's where I messed up because my dad told my aunt and told her she could tag along without telling me. We showed up to Olive Garden at around 4:30 p.m. and I asked to a table for 5. Me, my dad, my 2 sisters and my grandpa. But my dad said that if they could make it a table for 12. I asked why, and that's when he told me. I was pissed, especially because my aunt and my little sister have history, but I didn't think much of it because I wasn't expecting what was coming up. We are seated and around 30 minutes later she shows up with all her kids. We eventually order, and she kept ordering expensive dishes and lots of drinks. I was kind of in awe considering she lives off of food stamps, which I don't shame anyone who does, but she kept ordering like she was Scrooge McDuck on just another Tuesday. The bill eventually comes up, and I ask for it to be split. She says in such a grating voice, "What do you mean split bill? I thought you were paying for us." That's when it clicked. She only came for the free food. I immediately glared at my dad, who started blaming me, saying, "Why would you offer to pay and then not follow through?" Maybe because I wasn't expecting to pay for another 6 people. I ended up asking the waitress how much it would be because I didn't want to ruin the mood and my little sister's accomplishment. The bill came out to be about $557.87. Excluding what me and my family, my dad, my 2 sisters and my grandpa ate, it would be about $243.68. I outright refused to pay for her and her kids' meals. I felt as because 2 of them are still kids, but I never invited her myself, let alone agreed to pay for her bill. Now my dad is calling me a because he had to pay for it with his credit card. I don't believe I did anything wrong, but that's the reason I'm here. Am I the bad guy? Edit 1. I know I will definitely sound just like any other user saying, I was not expecting this to blow up, but I truly mean it. Also, sorry for all of the grammar and spelling mistakes, if there is any. English doesn't happen to be my first language. I'd like to thank all of you who gave me truly helpful advice and even gave me some words of encouragement. There is quite a few comments, but I'll make sure to go over each and every one of them. There seems to be some confusion, so I will clarify here, although if you all need context on something else, let me know in the comments. I'm 18 years old. I currently don't attend college because I'm trying to save up and just taking a gap year. My dad and my aunt have always been close. They were both addicts together, and they both made my mom's life a living nightmare. Some of you suggested that there may be a Sweet Home Alabama type thing going on between them, and I will tell you now that it is nothing of the sort. I may said a few very specific things about my aunt, like how she has a grating voice, but most of my hatred towards her comes from how my mom would tell me stories on how my aunt and my dad would literally bully my mom, and how one time they left her homeless with me and my 2 sister being less than 3 years old, my little sister being just a few months old. Some of you also said that I was seeking validation to a very obvious dilemma, but everyone around me has turned it on me. Even my grandpa thinks I was wrong for not paying. Some of my friends are even saying I humiliated them because I should have been clear from the start. That's why I decided to ask Reddit. Note that I'm not mad about being told how obvious this may seem, it's just that some people don't know the full extent of the circumstances. I'm already looking for an apartment I can rent out for me and my sisters. I hate that it's come to this, but I'm done with my dad's shenanigans. I'll try to update if anything else happens, but for now, this is goodbye. People have given some suggestion to OP on this post. Let's see. First suggestion from Adrenal Line Anxiety. Not the bad guy. Very easy, not the bad guy. I don't know what is wrong with your dad. He knew you didn't invite her and her kids. He invited them. He can pay for them. OP replied, that's exactly what I told him. I didn't want to make a scene, which took a lot in me not to do. And she also managed to finesse my dad to let her keep my leftovers. We don't have any food at home. Next suggestion from Solo Throwaway. Way to go. He invited Aunt plus kids. He pays for them. You invited your immediate family. You pay for them. That should be the way going forward. Anytime he invites them, he shoulders the cost. Eventually he'll get tired and will stop. Not the bad guy. Next suggestion from the Caca Storm. Not the bad guy, but you should have been clear before ordering about who you were going to pay for. And you need to have a conversation with your dad about what freeloader aunt does. He should be picking up the cost of the extras he invited. Next suggestion from Diminishing Patience. Absolutely not the bad guy. Your father has a lot to answer for by encouraging this behavior. Why does he think it's alright for you to pay for freeloaders he's invited, but it's an outrage for him to have to do it? Next suggestion from the IT guy. Not the bad guy. Your dad invited them behind your back. It is only right he pays for them. The bad guy here is your dad and your aunt. You did the right thing. Perhaps your dad will learn to keep his mouth shut. Thank you.